This is Jeff Wheeler.
And I'm Bryan Wheeler.
And we're the Wheeler Brothers.
Brothers.
We'd like to invite you on into our current exhibit at the fabulous Deborah Colton Gallery in Houston, Texas.
Actual Scenes, Genuine Characters is up now through the end of the year, 2022. We hope you'll find some time to go check it out. In the meantime, we're going to walk you through the show. The exhibition consists of solo works by both of us and collaborations as well. Some of the works are older and represent what we consider iconic works from previous series, and others are brand new, completed just days before the opening of the exhibition. Collaboration has been a part of what Jeff and I have done for as long as I can remember. We never start with an idea of how a piece is going to look or what images it might contain. There's no rules, no directions. We just work one at a time, passing them back and forth until they feel finished. Jeff's always collected random objects and images to add to for years, but this is the first folio like this we've done, and it's also one of the latest of our collaborations. We were so excited with how this one turned out that since then we've been collecting other folios to work on. Right next to one of our newest collaborations, we have one of our oldest. This was done when we first had a studio together in downtown Lubbock, which was on the ground floor of the Masonic Lodge and covered about 10,000 square feet, including exhibition and performance space, where we would have occasional shows like Ulterior Motifs, and then also would bring in sometimes several times a week touring indie bands and local acts, including my band, Los Sons of Bitches. This one, Fresh Sublimation, is one of a set of 3 5x5s we did for our first show out of Lubbock in Houston. And the 2 not shown here were sold at that show, and so this is the last of those first 3 big ones. Most of Jeff's solo work in this exhibit was done over the past several months. Sequestered in his studio, he just made as much as he could with no preconceived ideas or themes to follow. He said that he allowed his hand just to follow inspiration, then lead or search for it. The results then are the several different genres and styles included in this exhibition. And he chose to display at times the different series just as they came to him, all mixed together into a salon-style hang. Having come of age in the 1970s and 80s, Jeff has a love for the pop culture and design of the times, and he's continually trying to find new ways to pay tribute to that. On view in this show are several examples of this, including works about Charlie's Angels and fellow Texan Farrah Fawcett, and a work depicting the incomparable Evel Knievel and his Wembley Stadium crash. Jeff said he's always found the slow-motion videos of his crashes to be beautiful and surreal, and is currently working on a series of drawings based on all of his crashes. I've always been drawn, as Raymond Carver had it, to stories that never quite ravel, to things that were just a little bit out of place or beyond reach or kind of around the bend or vaguely conceived, especially when those things were adjacent to big ideas, myths, and archetypes. This piece, Sublime, starring the man, was the centerpiece of a 2018 exhibition titled Slinger, in which I made several large-scale paintings and small-scale digital collages inspired by Ed Dorn's 1970s comic anti-epic poem Gunslinger. Dorn's message in Gunslinger continues to resonate with me because of its central themes of the devastating imposition of capital and industry upon the landscape and alternative worldviews, the incessant quantification of the human experience, the inane rendering of monadic individualism through the arc and stereotypes of cowboy culture, and so on. As to the size, I think I just like the physicality of working big. During the pandemic lockdown, Jeff made a series of daily tributes to the souls that we had lost to COVID in Texas the day before. He says that he'll never forget the gut punch of eventually having to drop out because there were just too many deaths to keep up with. As a culmination of this series, Jeff recently completed a mural at La Zona in downtown San Antonio. Because our styles are just similar enough and we don't make a plan and resist any effort towards overt messages in our collaborations, they can really roll off the tongue or be effortless. This is one of our last collaborations, which plays on the French word for landscape, but here we're using a broader meaning towards this piece, which is in effect safe space. Despite that associative approach both in our collaborations and our individual work, there are themes that we return to again and again. For Jeff, these themes are often driven by his process of gathering images and objects to work with. His studio is like a smorgasbord of raw ingredients just waiting to be mixed into a stew. Jeff is also always sketching, either drawing from the everyday and the mundane, or in places that are sacred to him, like those places that his art heroes painted and worked and lived in. like Cézanne's studio in Mont Saint-Victoire, or De Chirico's studio in Rome, the hospital in Arles that so captivated Van Gogh as his ear healed, the stark landscapes of O'Keeffe's Ghost Ranch, and so on. And while Jeff proceeds from objects and images, I often start with ideas. For example, in addition to the kind of an inevitable meta-art narrative questions, I return again and again to creation myths and cycles of creation and destruction. And then more specifically to my experience as a Texan, I'm interested in identity and the concept of Texas exceptionalism and a kind of post-colonial Texas, especially as we can compare it to other post-colonialisms. Well, that's Actual Scenes of Genuine Characters in a nutshell. Again, we hope you get a chance to go see the show at Deborah Colton Gallery in Houston, Texas. The gallery hours are 1 to 5:30 p.m. on Fridays and Saturdays or by appointment.